Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back, everyone. And we're going to start today with the lyrics to a song that came out in the 80s, late 80s. We won't fake it. I'll never break it because I can't take it. Little patience. Yeah. Need a little patience. Yeah. Guns N' Roses. Patience is the song. We're going to talk about patience today, how to exercise it, how to find it, how to just navigate life being a little more patient. She has patience for patients quite often as an amazing psychotherapist. And it's always great to have Susie Engel back with us. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. Thank you, Steve. How are you?
Looking for the secret, like the secret to patience. Um, I think I've personally gotten better over time with patience, but it's not easy. And there's so many different scenarios and situations where you might need to use patience, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could always come in handy anywhere and everywhere, right? But it's a skill set or a character trait that is often not practiced or developed, probably from early on, in childhood throughout our life development. So, yeah,
Hmm.
patience is just um, maybe a superpower.
So I opened up my mind to this and I'm letting things drop in. Reasons why we don't have patience. Maybe we'll start there. The first
Great.
one that just hit me is respect. Many times we feel, I'm thinking, disrespected, and that's where the patience goes out the window. Do you think that's one of the triggers to ending your patience?
Yes, and I think that, that actually should be one of our podcasts, the whole thing about
Mm.
disrespect and where does that start? Um, yes, yeah. I mean, so usually if we don't get into the whole and go off, like we could do a whole podcast or more on disrespect. So I'm putting a note to myself for another time for us. But if you think about when somebody feels disrespected and then starts losing their patience, that is, we could also say, oh, this person's annoyance, which is on the spectrum of anger, annoyance,
Hmm.
or upset on the spectrum of anger, maybe anger and patience can't cohabitate. So maybe when the disrespect or annoyance rises, we're losing sight of, wait a minute, you know what? The anger is already inside of me. I have to cope with that, or I feel like my buttons have been pushed. And if I cope with that, I can regulate myself and apply patience or be patient or hone that life skill, I would say.
Well, the anger thing, I didn't say it. I guess it was on the back of my mind, but when you feel disrespected, let's say you're waiting somewhere, right? You're waiting, things take time, you're waiting, but now you look at the reasons why you have to wait and you feel disrespected.
Yes.
You made an appointment and now they're let these other people go before you. Maybe they were after you. Whatever it is, feeling disrespected here. What ensues next? Anger. You're getting angry, and now the patients take that like a piece of paper and just crumple it up and throw it out the window. It's all gone. It's all gone. But that's yeah, the respect thing is seems to where that could emanate from in the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of many reasons why people lose patience or don't have patience or what have you. And I also think that, if we go on that train of thought or line of thinking, then if I feel disrespected, and then my annoyance or anger begins to rise, I start thinking of all the things that are going wrong in the situation because it
Mm.
just is going to have this negative bent to it. And that means, oh my gosh, how much time have I been waiting? How much time longer is it going to take? And the more people look at the clock, the
Yep.
more frustrated people get, and the slower time goes, like watching a pot of water boil. Um, but I also think that patience, in terms of uh, conflicting with anger, goes back to early years where maybe
Mm.
parents are not patient with their children. So then children have a hard time being patient with themselves. I mean, if you think about the learning process, nobody needs to be taught how to walk if we have a healthy body and a healthy enough brain. So nobody needs to be told this is how you do it and this is the right way to do it. And you know,
Mm.
children just develop their learning skill for walking by trial and error. They feel balance, they get balance, they take a couple steps, they fall, they stand up, they do this over and over again. And nobody's saying you're not doing it correctly. And I feel like that's also an influence where people develop early on in life this inner critic. So that becomes, some sort of conflict for if I build a building block tower and the tower tumbles, am I going to uh, act angry about it and tantrum, or am I going to have the skill of patience or develop the skill of patience and rebuild it? And where in our lives do we have full focus like that? And how often can we do it? And then notice like what that feels like within us to have patience. But the two I don't think can go together.
Do you think ultimately a lot of it comes from what we learned as kids, from our parents? If your parents didn't have patience, you're probably not going to have it.
I definitely think so.
Mm.
And I think that if somebody starts realizing, well, I have a real issue with patience, they're at a phase of their life to be their own agency and say, this is not the direction I want to continue to go. But I think for sure, a lot of times people just don't realize if you just leave the children alone, they develop patience. But if you're not patient with them, and also our
Um,
society, they become neurotic about what were you thinking?
well, I'm seeing the same exact, what you're saying here, where, um, what could be, listen, I need you to clean up your room and I need you to do it now. You go back 3 hours later, it's not done. What does a parent do? If it happens over and over again, now it gets even shorter. The patience thing. So now I can see where, kids are interpreting that, and the parents, means well, they want a child to take direction, show respect, and do their thing. So I can see where it can be passed down from the parents.
Well, and also this is a common scenario where whether you're telling somebody to clean up their bedroom, your child, or telling some a child to pick up their bucket of Legos that are scattered all over the floor. The bottom line is when parents do not have patience enough and keep repeating themselves, yeah, and I think we've maybe mentioned this before in other podcasts, it is like fireworks for children. Like children just love this. And they are not malicious in any way, but they start realizing, like, I'm getting a rise out of this person. And even in an innocent way, this is occurring for the child.
Sure.
And the more the parent repeats himself or herself, the more it becomes a managerial job and responsibility for the parent. Now, if the parent started with patience to begin with, without interfering about just simplistic self-learning processes, instead of interjecting, oh, this is how you do it, and this is how let the kid learn from themselves, whether it's building a tower or trying to problem solve about something else. The minute we start saying, oh, no, that's not how you do that, then we're kind of stealing something. I feel like it's like thievery, like stealing something from the child's developmental process. And then we have a
Mm.
bunch of kids who are not patient.
I never thought of it that way. I really didn't. And forget about cleaning the room and all of that. But your child is performing a task, whatever it might be. They're learning how to do it. Now, if
Yeah,
you're rushed, let me show you how to do that.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
What parent is not guilty of that?
Well, no, that's true. But the bottom line is parents need to be aware. That's all.
For
I
sure.
mean, that is very true. It's not to say, oh, we're supposed to be perfect. It's just to be aware. And also, when we understand the layers of that, like if I repeated, you know what, if I have a family in the waiting room and I go out and say hello to everybody and say it's time for session, sometimes the parents hang back and keep repeating to the children, it's time for session, it's time for session. Now, those kids heard me the first time. I don't repeat myself, but the parents keep on saying it's time for session as if they didn't like jump up and get in here to the treatment room quickly enough. And, at some point during session, I point this out that they're like they would have come. And if you just come in for session because it's a family session, they will follow, but you have
Mm,
no reason to repeat yourself,
mm.
but the kids, you can see a little like playfulness, which doesn't feel like
Oh, I
playfulness.
got you. It's the yeah, yeah, yeah look on their face. Like, yeah, I got it. I'm going. Calm down. I'm on my way in.
Right. And if the parents just came into session and got settled, those kids would just trail in.
I
They
agree with you.
wouldn't delay the session.
I agree. They're not going to be hanging out, and they know why they're there. The kids aren't going to be hanging out in the waiting room while, mom or dad or both walked in. But I am going to defer back to something I said earlier.
Yes.
Respect. I think that that could be part of the situation where the parent feels disrespected and or the parent feels that they're not respecting you and the appointment time, as you just said, all right, everybody come on in. I do believe that there's a little bit of that riding there, and that's where the patients go awry.
Yeah. And I think that that's got to be. So I'm writing another list for other podcasts because the whole issue of respect
Yeah,
is
I know.
just
Keeps coming up.
it's just we cannot get into it. But the point is, what's going on for the parents if they think, oh, like I mean, it's just if they think it's like some sort of image thing that their kids are supposed to be perfect, and I tell the whole family it's time for a session, and if the parents didn't interfere, it
Hmm.
isn't, and the kids know me. Like I would not be fazed by this. I would not feel disrespect. I respect myself. you know, I feel
Yep.
like the parents have this pressure that everybody's supposed to have a perfect image and they interfere and then it backfires on them.
I'm
But
right there with you.
but listen, patience is teaching our children, you know, to take time to do something that's a challenge, whether it's origami or woodwork or needlework or modeling, building models or art or something, and realizing what it feels like to be just in the zone or what people call the flow, which is today's way of saying that that focus. And if children were given independent playtime and left alone to do this,
Hmm.
Patience develops within us. And if parents are always scheduling things and expecting their children to be, oh, have these plans and schedules, the children don't learn to do these things independently and develop patience or to try something new and push through, not just kind of quit, but
How do you, all right, so we're talking about kids, teens, children, over to adults
adults.
in general.
Yeah.
How do we find more patience? Let's say you're maybe a type A personality. It's like, let's go, 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 go.
Yeah.
And you don't even know what it is to have patience because you're always like, let's, right, right. How can you tap the brakes without feeling like you're slacking when it comes to
Yeah.
patience?
So I think that that's a really good question because one thing is now I'm going to go back to either the disrespect anger type issue. And really, like, I don't even know why we're labeling it like disrespect anger, but there is no room for annoyance. Annoyance is already within us. And if we let that continue to rise within us, there will be no space for patience. And I think that what should any individual do? Be able to recognize what am I angry about? Is my emotional reaction fitting this situation? And I mean, really, probably 99% of the time, we could say, no, my emotional reaction is like way higher than what this situation warrants. And if I look at just the situation, my patience can um, kind of be the scaffolding of coping. But if the anger's always bubbling up, and I don't mean to be talking so much with my hands, but if the anger's bubbling up, then we're losing sight. But if the awareness of, wow, what am I actually angry about?
Hmm.
And if some people are hooked on this disrespect thing, I my first question to people is, when was the first time or who disrespected you before this situation? Because it always goes back to some serious life-changing event. Maybe the other person doesn't think it was serious.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And that's an interesting question. I've done past, not past life. Although I've done a past life regression, but I did a timeline regression a few years ago
Yeah.
where it was about five negative emotions, and every single part of the hypnotherapy session was to think of the first time you felt that emotion,
Yes.
sadness, frustration,
Yeah.
whatever it might be.
Great
This
practice.
this one's a tough one. And the way it worked was when you confronted it and but you're not 100% sure. It's almost as if the practitioner said, "All right, we're going to zoom out a little bit and look at it, a little broadly so we can kind of home in on it." If you were to say to
Beautiful.
me, "When was the first time you experienced major disrespect?" I honestly, and we all did, I honestly don't know when that would be. I would
Yeah.
have to think, but I want to go back into my childhood,
Yeah.
but I don't know if that,
Maybe it's the word disrespect. Maybe it needs to be thought of differently because,
yes,
yeah.
yes, that's where I'm going
And
with
then
that.
and then you'll pinpoint like, ooh, oh, okay.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Laurie, you got bullied on the playground. Yes, I did. Was I being disrespected at that time? Would that be considered disrespect? I don't know. I'd have to think about that. But you're right. Finding another word to to get there. But you're right. It comes back from situations way before when we're dealing with this stuff.
I mean, before we started recording, I was at the grocery store and there was a, a a young woman driving, and at the entrance of the grocery store, it's a super busy place. she needed to stop and wait for pedestrians to cross, whether they were leaving the grocery store or entering. And I just waited for her to go by because I didn't want to get involved with it. But you could see her annoyance rising within her. You could see her anger. And then finally, when the last person crossed, she banged on her steering wheel and was screaming. The windows were closed, but you could hear her. She was just like, why is everybody cutting me off? And I can give another example. I was on a resort with my niece and nephew years ago, and I was people watching, and there was a young father and child, and he was splashing the child, and it was just so beautiful and joyful. And then the kid, the child, he splashed the father, and the father wouldn't have any of it, and had no, he didn't have the patience to say, oh, I don't like being splashed. I like having fun with you, but I don't like this double standard. But he was totally disrespected by the child splashing back. And I'm talking about a little kid, like 6 years old, 7 years old. And when the father lost his patience, rather than just trying to navigate the situation with patience, he he picked up the kid, his child, and they left the pool. But in a nanosecond, when the father was displeased by being splashed, the child's joy like drained out of him. And I can't imagine the rest of that vacation for this kid, you know.
You brought back a memory based on father, and I got a camera when I was probably 8, 9, somewhere around there. Always wanted the Kodak X15. It is the cheapest camera they make, but I got it. And, got it all set up, ready to go. And my father, who I didn't see often, but, he was there Christmas or whatever it was. And I remember turning to him out of nowhere, and he's just sitting on the couch with his legs crossed, just in there. And I turned him and took a picture of him. Didn't tell him I was going to do it. I was feeling like, let me take a candid pic of dad. And he's like, why did you do that without telling me you were going to do that? Don't do that. So now I'm thinking back to it. And it was, if I believe he maybe felt disrespected that I didn't give him advance warning that I'm going to take it. But I was looking at it more from a creative side.
Yeah, like candid.
Yes, and years go by. I'm taking pictures with my friend in high school, and we were the Candid Kings. We would walk down the hallway, camera down by our waist, click, 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 and we get like really good, fun shots of people.
Yeah.
But I think that he felt, I'm guessing, disrespected. Part of me is like, why are you wasting that? Then it was film. Why are you wasting film on that? To me, I didn't see it as waste because it was an impromptu, candid kind of, get you in a natural. But I feel maybe he felt disrespected at that time.
Well, maybe it goes back to all the other scenarios where one person in the interaction, in the dynamic, feels like, what if it's about my image?
Right.
If he was just like lounging on the couch, but would have preferred to have posed and stood up and
Understood.
grinned a certain way,
Understood.
but that's that person's apprehension. It's not it's it's not it's not necessarily disrespect. It might be like that. We've talked about this too, like this self-consciousness.
Potentially, sure. Yeah.
Maybe.
And it's not like it was going on social media.
No, I know. Well, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're out of time. Always great talking with you. Do I owe you a copay for that one?
No, but I do think that we have like a lot of follow-ups happening because we haven't really delved into developing the patients and the structures in the brain.
Yeah, which I, if you're open
Which
to a
we-
part two,
Yeah.
I'm wondering, I would like to, I have more patience now than I believe I ever did.
Right.
Like I
Which is
really,
great.
I mean that. Even when I was a kid and I wanted things to fix things and make things in my way, there was, patience, but not as much. I think I have the most now, but who doesn't want more patience?
Yes. And the patience is a virtue.
For
It
sure.
is a virtue. It is true.
So maybe
Not
we should
religiously speaking, just humanly speaking.
circle back to that if that,
Yeah.
yeah, I think we should. I think we should. Your website, very easy. It's your name, Susan Engel LCSW.com. Susan, and yes, it is Susan, not Susie, on your website. SUSAN, obviously, ENGEL LCSW.com. This is what you do. You can work with people virtually if you have lots of patience, and you have tons of patience.
Yeah, I usually have, I don't even want to tell you how many live cases I have, but I have tons of patient clients, and it's really exciting and dynamic because people just develop this perspective and transform, and they see it it's just really good stuff. It's not even work. It's just a process.
For you to effectively do what you do, you need to have patience. I can't see it any other way.
Oh, that's true.
Even those breakthroughs or whatever, you got to give the patient time to work through it and then for the change to take place.
Yeah.
Thank you for today. Truly appreciate, as always great talking with you, Susie. We'll catch up next time.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.